Thank you very much, Professor Danese, for the kind introduction. I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me here to this very interesting meeting. And today, as Professor Danese said, I will talk about the role of homeostasis and antioxidant and dietary habits in well-being and longevity. So let's try to see if I can activate the screen. Let's see what we can do it. Oh my gosh. Let's try again. Sorry about this, but it seems that is now a classic scheme of every presentation, the thrilling of sharing the screen that not always is working. And it seems that is like this for me. Let's say, okay, maybe I made it. Okay. So I think you should see the screen. And as I say, this is the title, Redox, Homeostasis and Dietary Habits, the Path to Well-being and Longevity. As Danese say, is a quite hot topic in this year and actually in the last 10 years related to the importance of food and dietary habits in prevention of disease, as well as in the impact on healthy planet. And actually, in this view, I have divided my talk in three parts. In the first one, I will talk about functional food and disease prevention, highlighting the superfood myths. After that, I will move to oxidative stress and antioxidant, providing an alternative sides. And at the end, I will show you the results, the recent results of our centenary project, a project linked to the diet and longevity relationship in Abruzzo region. So, as probably most of you know, recently, last year, have been published the Eat Lancet report that include a wide number of experts in food, diet, and nutrition that highlight the perfect diet for human and planet health. And as usual, the main message is from the Commission is trying to focus on a consumption of mainly plant-based foods with a low amount of animal food products, and of course, like could be seen here in the plate, with a majority of protein from vegetable sources. And actually, we have to say that, you know, this is not a novelty for people working on the field, because, you know, from the beginning of the publication of guidelines and recommended nutrition guidelines, we have always a classic option related to the importance of plant foods. However, in the same publication, the Eat Lancet Commission highlights the fact that majority of the population in the world is not following these guidelines for many reasons, and this is not the moment to highlight this, but basically the main issue is related with a huge higher intake in terms of calories for each person, but also in a lot of higher consumption of red meat and as well as starchy vegetables. So basically, if we translate this abnormality, this not adherence to the guideline, to a classic condition like the normal vessel, if we follow a unhealthy lifestyle, that is, you know, smoking, physical inactivity, high intake of energy-dense food, so we face a lot of stressor from our environment, and this stressor can bring to a lot of alteration, mainly an increase of oxidative stress and inflammatory stress, that is our response, the response of the immune function. Actually, what is important, that's the main aspect of this talk, the lack of adaptive response, dysfunction of cellular homeostasis that for cardiovascular disease may bring to all the issues and complications that we know quite well with the narrowing of the vessel that can lead to the adverse outcome like stroke or ictus and so on. But what is really important is the aspect of alteration of cellular homeostasis. And here we can introduce the concept of homeostasis. That is an aspect that is not very much highlighted in the paper, but I think it's really the key point of all the regulation in terms of physiology, because, you know, homeostasis is really the perfect physiological balance of our body. And it's work at metabolic level, cardiovascular level, antioxidant level, immune function, and so on. Basically, the concept is that if we, at the beginning of our life, that we are healthy and young, we have a lot of reserve physiological results to counteract the stress. As far as we increase, we age, and also we face a lot of stressor from the environment for our not perfect lifestyle, these physiological results have been utilized as far as we reach the final age of our life where we don't have any more physiological reserves and we fall into the homeostasis, where every single insult can be much, much more detrimental than when we have in the condition of classic physiological homeostasis. But I will provide you with some example related to the antioxidant. Once we have highlighted the fact that majority of the person do not follow the guidelines for a lot of reasons, and actually this is quite clear because in the last 20 years we had the burden of obesity, a huge increase of obesity rates all around the world. Is not anymore a condition that is related to West country or industrialized country. It's really a global burden. We have 1.3 billion obese and overweight people in the world, and we have also a huge amount of children, mainly, and actually also in Italy in the last 10 years, majority, there was a huge increase in obesity in children. And actually why obesity is so detrimental and why represent risk factors for a lot of diseases. Because actually the increase of fat is leading to a deep alteration in the homeostasis at various levels. We might have insulin resistance, so an alteration in the glucose metabolism. So we are not able anymore to counteract the peak of glycemia because insulin is not working like it should be. We have, of course, an alteration in all the pattern of lipid metabolism, decrease in HDL, increase in triglycerides, and increase in LDL oxidation. But what we have that is also very detrimental, an increase of oxidative stress through an increased production of free radical associated with the response in terms of immunity of an increase of inflammation. And we know that low degree inflammation is one of the key points in the reaction against any stress, any insult, but we also know that is a key factor, a key risk factor present in all the pathological and degenerative diseases. So despite we can discuss a lot about how obesity appear, one of the factors, one of the variables that play a significant role is related to the quality and quantity of our food. And basically, if we follow a Western diet meals with a lot of eating a lot of high energy dense meal, but also with a lot of energy, more than we need, we do have what is called postprandial stress. Postprandial stress happens every time that we eat something that contains energy, contains nutrients. And that's fine because, you know, we usually have an increase in lipid, glycemia, but we also have always an increase, a response of our immune function with an increase of inflammation, an increase of free radicals. In normal condition, if we eat a lot of food, high energy dense, this kind of stress can be easily modulated by our body because, you know, actually after a peak, this kind of stress go back to normal level. But if we follow a diet rich in high energy dense food for all our life, we fall in the condition of chronic oxidative and inflammatory stress. How can we counteract this stress? I mean, it's just important to pay attention to little detail. And I would like to introduce a study that we ran years ago on overweight people, where we stress with energy, a lot of energy, 1,350 calories, providing them 55% fat, 30% protein, and 15% carbohydrates, providing them with cheese, bread, potatoes fried in sunflower oil, and whole eggs, again, fried in sunflower oil. At the same time, there was the idea of stress these people, increasing their inflammatory oxidative stress. At the same time, we provide these people with a fruit juice rich of antioxidants. These were some of the person that, the volunteer that accept to take part of the study. As you can see, you know, this is quite a real life condition that mimics somehow a sort of really important English breakfast. You know, this is the fruit juice. Of course, there was also placebo, not containing any antioxidant. And I would like just to highlight what was the main finding of this study related to inflammatory stress. After actually almost immediately from the ingestion of the food, that you can see the red dot, we have a huge increase in TNF-alpha and IL-17. At this inflammatory stress keep high until 8 hours. This means that we are under stress after a meal like that for 8 hours. However, when the subjects drink the antioxidant-rich fruit juice, you can see that the inflammatory response was absolutely reduced in a very significant way in terms of TNF-alpha and IL-17. So the first message is that we can somehow reduce the postprandial stress associating in our meal plant food, not just the juice, but every kind of food containing antioxidant. And one aspect that was important at that study was looking at the effect of postprandial stress on antioxidant endogenous defenses. We look at uric acid and thiols, so antioxidants that are into our body. And as you can see, probably the response is a little bit different from what you can imagine. And this is in a black dot, you can see the effect of postprandial stress with the placebo. So we have an increase of antioxidant defenses, uric acid and thiols. So this means that under stress, in an inflammatory condition, our endogenous antioxidants rise up to counteract the highest free radical production. On the other side, when we provide fruit juices with antioxidant, this kind of reaction was hampered, was reduced in both cases, highlighting an important fact that exogenous antioxidant provide help and to counteract the stress without the need of the body to rise the antioxidant. We will come back on these aspects. So basically, we can suggest that, you know, it's important eating plant food for many reasons, because of course they contain the nutrients, the classic vitamins, minerals, and so on, but also for bioactive compounds. But the important aspect, I think, is the fact that these plant foods are able to interact with our endogenous defenses in a view of maintaining physiological homeostasis. That is the main important target of our body to achieve, maintain well-being. So let's keep going on this aspect in order to find out how can be sometimes communication very misleading related to food and bioactive ingredients. We had a lot of information on the web, on media and television about the superfood antioxidant. Every day we have been suggested to eat goji berries, strawberries, and so on. Every kind of plant food seems to be a huge burst of antioxidants. And under this point of view, it's always important, before going into the detail, that not all the studies are equal. Basically, we have a hierarchy of scientific evidence that go from the weakest to the strongest kind of study. And at the top of the pyramids, we have, of course, all the meta-analysis and systematic review, but we have randomized control trials, cohort study, case control study, cross-sectional studies, that all these studies are run in human. And you can understand that for when we talk about nutrition, when we talk about food, human must be the center, the golden standard for any kind of study. After that, we have animal trials, in vitro studies that are usually important for understanding mechanism of action, but must sometimes can provide misleading or not clear results. That's why communication about bioactive role of food, healthy effect of food must be mainly associated to a human study. We will see now why different examples can lead to a misleading information on this. Let's try to start from early beginning. You know, we have in the last 40 years a huge amount of publication on functional food. If you run a Medline of searching PubMed Cochrane, you might see that in the period 1980-2009, there was something like 10,208 publication on focus on functional food. In the decades 2010-2020, there were 32,000, with a huge amount for years in terms of publication. So functional food represent a really important topic, hot topic in nutrition and prevention. However, if you look at human trial, only in both period, only 3.9 or 3% of this study have been run in human. And if you look at keywords, we have a huge amount of papers looking at antioxidant, a little bit on immunity, not much, and a lot on inflammation. But also here, if you look percentage of human trial, you might see that the human trial on antioxidant are something like 1.8%, 1.9 for immunity and 5.9 for inflammation. So despite there is a huge interest, human trials are scarce and rare. And also, for example, if we look at certain ingredients like curcuma, or that we know that is a strong bioactive anti-inflammatory ingredient, if we just review the evidence in human, we might see that in curcumin, we have very few. We have something like 8 intervention study, and we look at marker of oxidative stress, the results in terms of modulation of inflammatory stress of antioxidant. You might see that in red, there are all the aspects related to a lack of effect, of a negative effect, and in green, the positive effect. And you might see that there is quite a half balance in terms of positive results or negative results or no results for antioxidant or inflammation, highlighting the fact that we are not so sure that curcumina could be a strong anti-inflammatory agent in human. And same story for pomegranate. We have only 8 study. Also here at the same story, we do have on this 8 study, 4 study highlighting a positive effect and 4 study highlighting a negative effect. Once again, this is a story that can be absolutely confirmed also for other food, just to highlight the fact that there is no situation of the bioactive activity of this food is not so clear when you look at the human data. And at the same time, we have we face a lot of ads in terms of commercial ads that convince us to buy food containing a huge amount of antioxidant. One of the classic examples is goji berries, fantastic Japanese red food. We love that. We really like it. And it seems that they are really the magic bullet for everything, for slowing aging, for boosting sexual function, and so on. And one of the messages related to the assessment of antioxidant capacity, that is the antioxidant value of the food in vitro, of the ingredient present in the food. Looking at the graph, you can see that goji berries contain huge amount of antioxidant, more than 25,000 or unit for 100 grams. And there's almost nothing comparing to red grapes, oranges, and so on. So this is a message that is always deliver in order to convince consumer to buy antioxidant-rich food. So let's try now to see if this is true, and let's try to see if there is an alternative side to understand what is real in this kind of message. We have done some experiment in order to test the fact that if in vitro antioxidant capacity could be reliable biomarker of the effect in vivo. And we selected chocolate, blueberries, honey, and lettuce. And you can see here the value of antioxidant capacity. And this is the ranking. Chocolate is the top, followed by blueberries and honey. And at the last point of the ranking, there is the lettuce. After that, we feed people in acute intervention study with the 4 food. Same design, same markers, same assessment of antioxidant capacity. And when you look at the results in human antioxidant capacity, you might see that the ranking is completely different. The poor lettuce, that was the last one in vitro, displayed the highest antioxidant capacity, followed by chocolate, blueberries, and honey. This is just to highlight the fact that the condition in human after absorption is completely different, and you cannot compare the antioxidant capacity of different food in vitro. This is something that is an intrinsic potential, but actually in order to define and understand the extrinsic potential, antioxidant potential, you have to go in human, because there are many aspects that play a role. First of all, most of the antioxidant bioactive ingredients in food are polyphenols. These polyphenols are characterized by a low bioavailability in terms of 10–15% of the ingested doses. Moreover, once we ingest or drink whatever the phenolics, we do have a huge metabolic pathway leading to a number of catabolic endpoints that might have an effect or might be not, and for sure completely different from the parental compounds present in the food. So this leads, for example, if we drink a cup of coffee from a single molecule of caffeic acid, we have a huge amount of metabolites. So that is subjected to extensive metabolization. So we cannot predict, we cannot understand from the basic of in vitro value what will be the fate and the effect of these ingredients. Moreover, there is another aspect. We ran a few systematic review and meta-analysis looking at the effect of polyphenols and antioxidant-rich food on antioxidant capacity in human, looking for all kind of fruit juice, tea, cocoa products, any kind of antioxidant. And briefly in our meta-analysis, where we selected something like 716 publications, reaching a final number of 90 trials included for the analysis, what we found was a very interesting aspect. When we look at all the effect of plant-derived food according to the stress status of the subjects, what means? We divided the effect of all these intervention trials according to healthy subjects and subjects with risk factors, meaning that metabolic syndrome, hypertension, high triglycerides, smokers, and so on. And as you can see here in the green bar, when the study were run in healthy subjects, you have a significant increase of antioxidant, but with a FSIs of 0.3. When you run this analysis, this meta-analysis in people, in subjects with risk factors, you do have a FSIs of almost 3 times more, 0.9, meaning that the antioxidant from food are much more beneficial when you are in a situation of unphysiological homeostasis, when your antioxidant system is under stress. That's the highest beneficial effect of antioxidant. I'll give you other 2 evidence about this. This is the Predimed Trial, a large intervention trial run in Spain, focus on people with at least 3 risk factors for cardiovascular disease. The basic design is a control group with a low-fat diet and 2 groups following low-fat diet and nuts or olive oil. In this trial, we analyze the antioxidant capacity, and I'm showing you the results after 1 year supplementation in terms of antioxidant capacity. We had that people following in the control group, there was no change at the beginning after 1 year. In the nuts group and the olive oil group, there was an increase in antioxidant capacity, and that's something that we can expect it. But as usual, we try to see the data in another way, and we analyze the data, the changes in plasma antioxidant capacity according to different quartiles of antioxidant capacity at the beginning. Let's focus on this aspect of the graph. Here in light, you have the beginning, the starting level of antioxidant capacity. 1 means that they start from lower level, 4 from higher level. In orange, in dark orange, you have the effect after 1 year supplementation. As you can see, the highest increase is in the people starting from lower level. See, there is an increase of 2 points in terms of statistical meaning in people starting from second quartile, 1 in terms of third quartile, and no increase in people starting from highest quartile. So also from an intervention trial, long term, 1 year, we have another hint, another advice that it's really important. Increasing the intake of antioxidant is much more efficient in people that are under stress, starting from lower level of antioxidant. The higher evidence comes from a completely different model, epidemiological study. EPIC study, one of the largest study running in Europe on 500,000 subjects. Here is the effect of the impact of dietary antioxidant capacity on gastric cancer risk. And when you look at all the subjects here in the first part of the graph, you have a moderate intake, moderate reduction of the risk in according to the increase of intake of antioxidant from diet. However, when you look in smoker, this effect is dose dependent. In smoker, where you have higher oxidative stress, increasing the intake of antioxidant is much more protective than in smoking people that don't have a high intake of antioxidant. And you might see that this effect is not dose dependent in people that never smoke. So 3 different models, the same conclusion. It's really important eating and drinking your antioxidant if you are under stress. So we might finalize this part in terms of advice in optimize antioxidant function. That could be, for example, if we are in a condition of homeostasis, so a green, no stress, homeostatic balance, a physiological reserve, the dietary antioxidant can have a effect limiting oxidant load through reduction of postprandial stress. But when we look at the effect on endogenous defenses, we don't see much, because our antioxidant redox system is tightly balanced and is not needed to move further up and down. However, when we are in a condition of stress, so we are starting to get redness, reddish somehow, under inflammation, alteration of homeostasis, here dietary antioxidants are paramount important, because they might have also had the reduction effect in postprandial stress, also a marked effect on endogenous antioxidant defenses, bringing down and avoid the dysfunction and bringing down to green color somehow, restoring homeostasis with a tight interaction with endogenous antioxidant, with endogenous that we have in our body. So it's from the interaction from endogenous, exogenous that we might have the best benefit and trying to restore homeostasis, redox homeostasis, that is crucial for well-being or for reducing the risk of disease. So let me introduce the...
Sorry, Mauro, you have 2 minutes for the conclusion.
Okay. Okay, so let's introduce successful aging. We have a lot of evidence on the importance of inflammation, oxidative stress during aging. And we know how the diet and plant food are extremely important in this aspect. I would like to show you the results of our Centenary project. The Centenary project is a project looking at the role of dietary habit in Abruzzo region on longevity. Why this? Because, you know, there are a lot of study on this aspect, but people from Abruzzo has a quite peculiar dietary tradition, what is called diuno, that is stopping fasting in the morning. Basically, what these people do were having a light lunch in the night, a light breakfast, and a huge lunch in the a huge lunch. And this somehow is in line with the recent discovery of fasting state in order to maintain homeostasis. I'll go quite briefly, quite quickly on this. These are the results of a first study on the centenarians. We have people from 1999 years, 31, and centenarians that were 8. So the first question was physical activity. You can see that all the centenarians, mostly of them, practicated have also object of intense physical activity. But what was impressive was the percentage of people adherent to the UNO habits, and were for the centenarians 100%. When we look at the time of the lunch, breakfast, and so on, we highlight that there were actually from the dinner in the evening and the lunch at midday, there was something like 17.5 hours of only the breakfast. So this means that their metabolism was able to recover from the dinner in the evening that was not so important. And so this was probably, in our view, the peculiar aspect contributing to the longevity of these people, together with also a high intake of plant food. This is the pyramid of the centenarians based on the questionnaire we ran. So at the basis, we have plant food, fruits, vegetables, beans, cereals, and so on. Sweets were at the top with less than 1 portion in 2 weeks. So somehow this is a quite intriguing study that we hope to continue enlarging the cohort. I'm going to the conclusion. I think that it's quite important increasing research in human nutrition in order to realize a robust intervention study in real life setting, looking at the understanding of homeostasis condition and to reduction of postprandial stress, to develop strategy of utilization of diet to maintain well-being and prevention of obesity-driven pathology. That what is important is providing recommendation based on real-life condition in order to consumer to follow. The aspects related to the UNO habit could be extremely important because this is quite unique, peculiar of the centenarians in Abruzzo region, and it might be one of the key points also to translate to the young generation in order to extend longevity. Basically, the other aspect that is, I think, is very crucial is that the institution, school, research, and media should work together in order to provide information that are scientifically solid, robust, and based on human intervention study when we talk about nutrition and the role of bioactive ingredients in longevity and prevention of disease. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry if I just went out a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauro, for the very nice talk and fascinating scenario you presented. So there's Zoom time for a couple of questions from the audience. Please do questions. And you have to switch on the microphone to do questions, please. if there are no questions from the audience, we have a question reserved from Aldo Corsetti. Please do a question, please.
Okay, good morning, Mauro.
Good morning.
And congratulations for your presentation. And I have just a question about the interest concept you have expressed about the intrinsic and extrinsic antioxidant potential. And that means you stated that there are just very few studies in humans, no, to demonstrate the real potential of this compound. But there is some, are there some studies about the quantity, the dose of the food we must ingest daily in order to assume some antioxidants? For example, in the field of probiotic, we have a dose of leaf cell that we must assume, for example, 10 to 7, 10 to 8. Are there some indication in that field?
Oh, thank you very much, Aldo, for your question. Actually, I can say that there are not indication. I mean, the first concept was more antioxidant and much better. But there was a quite negative message because, you know, when the antioxidants are eaten through the pills, we discover with the quite solid, the robust trial that are not working and can be quite detrimental. So this assumption is wrong. It's not true that more antioxidants are better if we eat in terms of galenic preparation. If we look to food, of course, in that case, you can eat any the amount you want. But as you say, to answer your question, we don't have a dose of antioxidant that we should eat regularly in order to potentiate our response. We don't have it because we don't have any kind of study highlighting the normal physiological level in terms of antioxidant. And actually, what I call the neglected antioxidant is the fact that the scientific community completely forgot about the existence of endogenous antioxidant. We have enzymes and compounds that we born with that, and they worked, but we don't consider anymore. The optimal antioxidant system is the results of the exogenous and endogenous. In order to understand how much antioxidant we should get, we need to assess the endogenous. Or actually, we should focus on the one, in my opinion, the most important aspects of the exogenous antioxidant, counteracting postprandial oxidative stress. In that condition, the millimolar concentration of polyphenol could be extremely effective compared to the nanomolar we found in the body fluids.
Okay, thank you, Mauro. We still have time for a short question. I think that we have a reserved question from Claudio Daddario. Please do.
Okay, ciao Mauro, very nice presentation. Congratulations. Coming back to your data, you show that after a huge meal, at the beginning you show some data, after a huge meal with extra calories, you show an increase in inflammation with TNF-alpha and interleukin-17 going very high, and was up to 8 hours. When does it come back to normal, this kind of alteration? I was wondering. And also, I mean, since we know that obesity induce high increase in inflammation, and we know that coming back to this period that we are living about the COVID, we know that in this period people with obesity is more likely to be affected possible by this kind of infection. If we have an inflammation, a state of inflammation altered, even if not you are not obese in this kind of situation, might this be a problem for your kind of possible risk to get infected also by virus? What do you think?
Thank you very much, Claudio. Regarding the time lapse of the inflammation, you have to consider that before our study, all the study that looking at postprandial stress, they last until 4 hours. That was the first study lasting 8 hours. But there are not any other study lasting more than 8 hours. That's probably for ethical reasons somehow. And but you know, as you say, as you can see from the data, 8 hours TNF-alpha is not going down. So this means that after that kind of meal, probably you have even longer time of inflammation. Of course, it will depend from the amount of calorie and the quality of the food. Regarding the other question, I think I absolutely agree that, you know, if we put the COVID infection in the context of the alteration of immune function, so all people with obesity, at least 2-3 pathologies, like could be also hypertension, that are more sensitive to COVID, I think that all the common markers of this kind of pathology and alteration is inflammation. That's why it's clearly that the immune function is the key of this high virulence of the COVID. That's why it should be extremely important looking at inflammatory response and immune function in healthy people, trying to modulate your nutrition and trying to make a robust immune function in order to have a solid resistance to any kind of virus, not just COVID.